flinched. Was this Rob's walkie, or something imitating my walkie? Then it emerged. Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to Dark Secrets, where we tell real cryptid reports in an immersive storytelling format. Now, if you're into cryptids like Bigfoot, Wendigos, the Dogman, or if you just like a good story, you are in the right place. This week, I've got a reported encounter with pale crawlers. And don't worry, if you don't know what pale crawlers are, if you haven't heard of pale crawlers, I'm going to give you a short description of what these beings are supposed to be. And I've got 3 super short encounters that are confirmed that you can look up on Wiki, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about before we get into the main story, which, may I add, is probably one of the creepiest stories I've told to date. What is a pale crawler? They are said to be humanoid creatures, described as thin and pale, with long limbs and claws and large black eyes. They're known to be incredibly fast, stealthy, and smart, often luring their victims deeper into the woods. Here are 3 quick, confirmed, reported encounters that can easily be found on Wiki. June 14th, 2008. Near a forested area in Higgins Lake, Michigan, in which 2 unnamed men were injured and 1 was killed. Police passed it off as a bear attack, officially. The validity of the bear attack is unlikely, as video that has since conveniently been lost was shown to have disproved that theory. July 23rd, 2013. In upstate New York, near Niagara, a crawler was seen by a park ranger who would lose his job due to unruly conduct, poor mental capability, and an inability to distinguish reality from fiction. The crawler was caught on camera, but the Ranger Service confiscated it as official evidence. April 19th, 2022. Near Elkhorn, Wisconsin, a sighting of a possible crawler occurred on the intersection of Tell and Bray. Due to its location, it has been debated whether this was a crawler, Fleshgate, or the Beast of Bray Road. Now that you have a rough idea of what we're talking about, let's get into today's story. I'm super excited. This story gave me chills when I read it. It's gotta be one of the creepier stories I've reported on. Let's get into it. Pale crawlers lured us off the trail. Me and my best friend Rob was setting out to hike the North Country Trail in Michigan. Little did we know, this hike was gonna change our lives forever. We probably were only about 2 miles into our hike when all the weirdness started. I remember hearing a chainsaw off in the distance, and I didn't think a whole lot of it at first, but after about another quarter mile, Rob spoke up. "Do you hear that chainsaw?" "Yes." "Why?" "The sound's been coming directly from our right for half a mile now, like it's following us." I stopped and for the first time paid real close attention to the sound. It was definitely a chainsaw, but something was eerily off about it. It was revving and going back to idle, but it never changed pitch. A chainsaw bogs down and changes tones when cutting through wood. This sounded like a broken record on repeat of someone revving a chainsaw but not cutting anything. I pointed this observation out to Rob, and he agreed how strange it was. Maybe someone was in the need of help. Rob pulled out a whistle and gave it a hard blow. The chainsawing stopped, and we heard a whistle just like Rob's ring out back to us. Rob darted off the trail blowing his whistle, heading towards the sound of the responding whistle. I followed closely behind. It sounded like the sound was only maybe 100 or 200 yards off the trail. But after some time, I noticed that the sound was not getting closer. I grabbed Rob's arm. "Stop!" Rob looked at me with confusion. "Rob, we have been hoofing it for at least 500 yards and that whistle sound has not gotten any closer. It's moving away from us at the same speed we're moving towards it." Rob hesitated before blowing his whistle one more time. The responding whistle was definitely just as far out as it had been when we started. Rob's eyes widened. Is someone trying to lead us off the trail? Why? We're gonna be part of some crazy murder mystery? I don't know, Rob. First thing we need to do is get back to the trail. Let's turn our walkie-talkies on in case we get separated. As we both turned them on, there was a bit of a screech from the walkies. That didn't bother us, that was normal. But not 30 yards in the thicket, we heard an exact replica of the screech our walkies just made. We bolted for the trail, both falling every now and then and taking slightly different paths around fallen logs and vegetation. This part was all a blur of fear and adrenaline. I busted through some vegetation and was on the trail again. I breathed a slight breath of relief as I said, "Look, Rob, we made it this far." But no response. Rob was nowhere in sight. I immediately called him on the walkie. "Rob, where are you?" As I released the button, the walkie made a short static sound that was quickly replicated just inside the brush line. I flinched. Was this Rob's walkie? Or something imitating my walkie? Then it emerged, just enough for me to see its face. Real quick before we get back into this story, if you're enjoying how we tell real cryptid reports in an immersive format, please drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn notifications on. These completely free, simple steps helps a small channel like this one grow on YouTube, and it keeps our videos from being buried down in your feed by all the bigger channels. So in advance, thank you for your support. Now let's get back to that story. Then it emerged just enough for me to see its face. Hollow, empty black eyes, pale white skin, and a bizarre, distorted mouth. It moved in a jolting, disturbing way. Then it cocked its head and opened its mouth. The sound that came out made my stomach crawl into my throat as I heard Rob's voice calling my name. I dropped my radio and started sprinting down the trail. Directly behind me, I heard that thing calling to me in Rob's voice. Behind and slightly to my right, I heard the chainsaw noise, and behind and to the left, I heard the walkie static. There was 3. I remember how blurry the trail was. I was so frightened that I was crying. I ran so hard for so long till everything just went black. I woke up to paramedics checking my vitals. I was confused and immediately started fighting them. They did their best to restrain me while repeating, it's okay, we're not gonna hurt you." I finally relaxed a little. "Where am I?" One of the paramedics responded, "A group of hikers called us and reported that you had ran up on them terrified and then collapsed to the ground. We're in the ambulance, heading to the hospital." I responded, "Did you find Rob?" The paramedics looked confused. "No, it was just you. Is there another person out there in need of assistance?" "Yes," I replied, and began frantically babbling about what happened to us. The paramedics then injected something into my IV and asked me to calm down and told me that I was in shock. I woke up in the hospital. Other than scrapes, cuts, and bruises, I was fine. And an officer was waiting in the room. His first question was if I had any more details on Rob and where he might be. My heart sank at this question, as it meant Rob has not been found. Search parties looked for Rob for 3 days. The police were highly skeptical of me, as I was the last person with him and my story was, well, crazy. In the end, there was no evidence of foul play. Really, there was no evidence at all. The only thing the search party found was my walkie I dropped when that thing spoke. I say spoke, but it wasn't speaking. It sounded more like a slightly distorted, disturbing recording. In the end, Rob's disappearance was labeled as an animal attack. Rob's friends and family, and some of mine, sent a lot of hate my way, blaming me for Rob's death and showing utter disgust towards my story. I have night terrors now. I lost a friend. I lost family. I lost my grip, it feels, on what reality even is. So what'd you guys think? I told you this was a creepy one, and whether this was real or not, it's still a fantastic story to listen to. Let me know down in the comments how this story made you feel and what you think about it. And as always, keep an open mind, and I'll see you in the next one.